Hi everyone, this is going to be a quick tutorial about how to play Grassroots. This is a game based off of and is a simplified version of the board game Roots, but modified to fit the constraints and model of modern environmental activism. You will play with 3 players, each representing a group with the power in this paradigm. Oil executives, meant to embody corporations, climate activists, and the government or legislative body. Each role has its own unique playstyle and strategies. The goal of the game is to gain 15 victory points, whether it's through taking over land or gaining points from aiding other players. Though it is important to note, the act of winning is a concept that cannot be accomplished in real life. The game consists of a couple key components. There is the central board, 30 play pieces for each player excluding the government, 2 die, and 40 victory point tokens. There are also a couple of special cards that each player can use, but we will go over that when we cover each player's playstyle. This is what a board mid-gameplay may look like. The game operates on 2 phases that rotate. A building phase where the players gather forces and prepare for the next phase, and then a combat phase where players can face off against each other to win points. The method in which each player's phases proceeds varies and will be covered in detail. In the building phase, players generally prepare for the combat phase by shuffling their player pieces around the board into strategic positions and can also choose to activate some buffing or debuffing cards that will come into play in the combat turn. Players can occupy land in order to gain 1 victory point for each plot occupied. To take over land, the player needs to reach the threshold point of players in that piece of land in order to claim it, or if it is already occupied, then they must fight for the land by meeting conditions and then rolling the dice. In this scenario, the oil execs rolled an 8 and the climate activists rolled 9, meaning that the climate activists get to take this piece of land. The government can also choose to aid 1 player in combat in order to gain points. Here, the government is adding an extra dice to the oil executive's dice roll, meaning that they roll a 10 instead of 8, and the oil execs get to take the land instead of the activists, gaining a point. The government also gains 1 as well because the faction that they supported won the combat. When a faction is defeated, its player pieces must be removed from that plot of land. Oil executives will return the pieces to headquarters, and activists will simply remove them from the board, and the pieces may be added back later as the game progresses. The government does not need to remove its pieces in either the event of a win or a loss. The oil executive's main mechanism is based around a main base or the company headquarters that they can manage their resources from. The oil executives start off with all 30 play pieces on the board, and at the start of the game he may distribute them to plots of land, but they must be within 3 plots of land to their headquarters. During a building phase, oil executives can move 3 player pieces twice. A piece being moved once means that it has been moved across 1 plot of land. Here, the bottom piece has been moved once and the top piece has been moved twice. The oil executive can still choose to move 1 piece up to 2 times. When the oil executive occupies a piece of land, it is being fracked. Before attempting to take over an occupied piece of land, the oil executives must first appease their shareholders by fulfilling conditions. There must be at least 2 pieces of land adjacent to the plot that contains at least 5 player pieces already. They must also equal or exceed the number of pieces that the opposing player has accumulated there. This action is called investing. If the investment requirement has been met, then the player may initiate combat and roll 2 die. However, if it is not, the player can still choose to initiate combat but must instead roll a single die against the opposing player's 2. The oil executive has 3 special cards that they may play during the building phase. Lobbying, which forces the government to move 1 piece to take your side during the next combat phase. Tax evasion allows you to bypass the investment requirement when trying to take over a plot of land, and internet trolls removes all activists from a plot of land of your choice. However, each card may only be used once per game. The climate activists' main mechanic is based around flexibility, hence the grassroots movement. The activists start off with only 6 of their play pieces on the board, but have much more flexibility than their executive counterparts. At each building phase, the activists can add 1 more player piece to each plot of land that they currently have at least 1 player piece on, and they can choose to move up to 5 player pieces once. To take over land or to preserve it, the activists can start a protest if there are at least 3 player pieces on a piece of land, even if it is currently being fracked. If the activists manage to successfully occupy it, it will take 2 building phases before the plot of land can be used to add player pieces to the board. This allows time for the land to recover from fracking. Similarly, if the protest threshold is not met, the activists may only roll 1 dice instead of 2 when trying to take the plot of land from the oil executives. The activists also have 3 special cards that can be played during the building phase. By using social media, you can move 2 player pieces up to 3 times by amplifying your message. Echo Chamber allows you to double the number of play pieces at a specific plot of land, and peer-reviewed study forces the government to back the activists at the next combat phase. All of these cards also may only be used once per game. The government's mechanic is similar to that of the raccoon in the original game. Depending on the player, they won't pick a specific side to win, but rather try to stay on everyone's good side in order to win the most points off of everybody in order to win the game. The government has only 3 player pieces representing the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Each piece has its own mechanic. The legislative branch can set aside a plot of land for a specific faction, which debuffs the opposing players when they try to initiate a combat by removing a dice from their dice roll. This effect lasts for 2 combat phases after the legislative branch is no longer at that plot of land. In the top left, the legislative branch has set aside this plot of land for the activists even when there are no blue pieces at the piece of land yet. However, the activists can quickly move some pieces there to take advantage of this debuff. The executive branch can force a standoff to happen in a plot of land, overriding each faction's conditions to start a combat. Here, neither of their conditions have been met, but each side may still roll 2 dice for the standoff. The government gains a point if the faction with less pieces on that plot of land wins. Here, the oil executives rolled an 8 and the activists rolled a 10, so the activists get to take the plot of land. And since the activists had only 1 player piece on the land compared to the oil executives' 3, that means that the government also gets to gain a point in this scenario. The judicial branch may choose to add an extra dice roll to the combat to one side. During each building phase, the government may move 2 pieces up to 3 times, but no 2 pieces may be at the same plot of land in one turn. And that's how you play Grassroots. This game can be played collaboratively online on Google Slides by moving around the assets shown in this video that I will have linked below. I will also include a written version of the rulebook there as well. I hope you enjoy.